Hello, everyone. Well, good evening and welcome back to Tuesday night. How are you feeling tonight, Alyssa? She's coming to join us here momentarily.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So excited to be here. We have Emily. I just met over about, how long has it been? 10 days?
Yeah. Something like that.
I've already had so many soul connections, and she is actually a very strong Aries. She's got 4 different Aries in her chart, right? Tell us which they are.
My sun and my moon and my Mercury and my Venus.
Oh my gosh. I've never met someone with so much Aries, and it shows. You're such a bright star. Matt, you want to bring us into the night?
Yes, definitely. Great to have you with us. Those who are joining, we know several of you. Eve, thank you so much for being here on the East Coast. We know it's getting kind of late. I appreciate you sharing your evening with us. Tonight is a really big night. It's our first conversation through the 12 archetypes and emanations, which we are attempting to better and deeper integrate into ourselves, our relationships, our homes, our families, our hearts. Really exciting because this is something that seems to be missing from the conversation today. So as Alyssa mentioned, we have Emily Winslow joining us, who is local here in Arizona, just like us. And I'll put a couple links on the screen so you can connect with her. So she's been a healing arts practitioner for a long time, like 15, 20 plus years, and then also has a really cool holistic brand strategy business that she's doing as well. So both the websites are up on the screen, and you can connect with her on Instagram at mwins, which I thought the wins was kind of like an Aries winning thing, but I realized it's also Winslow. So you got me there. That was really good. But yeah, it's good to have you with us, Emily. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, thank you for having me, you guys. I'm really excited to be here. I love this conversation. We had a fun conversation earlier today, just in preparation, and honestly, we probably should have recorded it. It was really good just hearing your perspectives, and I think we have a lot we can discuss here. So I'm really honored to be included in the conversation. Thank you.
Well, it goes both ways. We're thrilled to have you. Always exciting to make new connections, and I know you mentioned this, that it seems to be a recurring theme that people sort of feel like they recognize you or something, but for whatever reason, that was the case for Alyssa and I, and super excited that we get to know you in this way through the live conversation tonight. So for those of you who haven't been with us before, this is an open forum. We love to hear from you. Angie, great to see you. We love to hear your comments, your thoughts, questions, ideas, input. Maybe it's things that have been bothering you for a long time that it comes up and maybe you wouldn't normally talk about it in a conversation. This is the time. These are the vulnerable conversations where we're trying to better integrate all these thoughts and feelings inside of us by sharing them outwardly in a safe container. And that's what the new earth we're trying to bring is really all about. So I'll give kind of a quick recap of last week and a quick teaser for what Alyssa and Emily will be talking about tonight, unless either of you have anything to add first.
I'm good. I'm excited. Let's get started.
Yeah, me too. So let's just give a quick rundown of this idea of syzygy. So last week was the first time a lot of us heard this really cool word, which I actually saw on a show with Alyssa earlier this year. I thought it was made up. I had no idea this is a real English idea. But syzygy is this idea that everything exists in this reality as a two-component balanced energy of feminine and masculine. So going back in time, you'll see a lot of representations of this in like ancient religion and theology, such as the yin and the yang, such as like Mother Earth and Father Sun. Almost everything has this dual aspect, which honestly has kind of been lost, especially in modern culture. There's just like men who are masculine, women who are feminine, and they're trying to figure things out as opposites in this 3D reality. Our notion to challenge that is that all of us are both, and finding out how we can show up as both and learn ways to be our own mother, our own father, our own children really allows us to balance ourselves and then show up in a more authentic way in our relationships. So super exciting conversation last week. We went all sorts of directions, and now we're going to dive into the first archetype on that chart, which is Aries, the beginning of the zodiac calendar that part we all know fairly well. And Aries has these two syzygies, which are What are they? The first
Mind,
one is mind, and the
truth.
second one is truth. And these come from Greek origin, the syzygies that we're discussing. Mind, the word is nous. So I'll just throw it up on the screen again. This is one that not a lot of us will have heard of, but you'll know nous through words like paranoia, which literally means you're like beside your mind. Paranoid means you're having a hard time. Metanoia is actually the Greek word in the New Testament that was translated as repentance. So creating a new mind. So all these ideas have to do with mind. And there's a really cool book called The Great Meaning of Metanoia, which is basically discussing how the idea of repentance has been misunderstood in the scripture. So very cool. Nous meaning mind. And then the other side of it, the feminine side, is aletheia. And interestingly, aletheia, the root word is leith, which is the river of forgetfulness that we all cross when we come into our human bodies, and then we all have to cross back over by giving the boatman a coin after our death. So the idea really of Aries, going back to these syzygies, is a mind that hasn't forgotten. So a mind without forgetting, aletheia, a meaning against or without, and then leith being forgetting. So mind without forgetting, that is high manifestation. That is a super high frequency, and we're super excited to go into it tonight. So Alyssa, last conversation, it kind of ended on this idea of, well, can I stay curious and can I keep my mind online even when I know things? And you were kind of giving us a little briefing of that. Let's start there. So can you truly know things and be tethered to what you know and still be curious and allow your mind to stay open?
Yeah, and I'd love to hear what you think about this, Emily. But basically what I was feeling was obviously any one topic is going to have like, there's going to be parts of it that you're like, I already know this part, and you can stay curious about something else. But can you be curious and know? No, it contradicts itself. To know it is to say, I'm not curious to know anything more because I already know. It limits you. It blocks the door. You no longer can explore. You have this like this block as soon as you have categorized it as I know, when if instead you're like, oh, I believe, or I think, but I'm not sure, or I don't know, or this is, when you open it to exploration, now curiosity begins to come into play. And when you have two opposing thoughts, like whether in your own mind or with another person, you're able to explore it together like freely, and it's fun. But if you have something you want to defend it because you have done a lot of defending your own. You have not allowed yourself to have that freedom. You have been caged in these places, and that needs to then defend itself, right? If you have nothing caged, it's all free, and you're just allowing it to flow naturally, you're going to be able to more easily like explore things together. And in your own mind too. If you're not super attached, it's just like, that's interesting. And you'd be curious about all the different things. But yeah, Emily, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. And truth is subjective a lot of the time. And we were speaking about this earlier, that even feeling truth is subjective, but it does have truth in it, right? Regardless of whether your feelings are about a perspective that might not be the objective truth of the situation, the feelings themselves are true. And I can tell you as an Aries that feelings are a really big part of existing. They are for everybody, but there's something about that like fiery, passionate, energy that will rise up literally like a fire through my belly, through my chest, and just like explode in heat. And that is so true for me, even if the catalyst for that experience might not be objectively true.
Right.
So the difference in truth, like what you're saying, in the mind, you can tell yourself a story, especially if it's an ego-driven story. That's not necessarily truth. You can actually literally see things that did not happen. And I can give you an example. Yesterday, I was in the shower with my partner, and his back was to this thing, and he went to pump this thing, I thought, but instead he was actually grabbing soap. But I was just like not really paying attention, and my eyes thought that he pumped the conditioner and was washing his body with conditioner. And I was like, why are you washing your body with conditioner? He turns around and he's like, what? And he has the bar of soap. And I go, whoa, the way your arm looked from behind, it was blocking, right? My perspective of seeing it was totally different. Looking at the back of my hand, my fingernails, my, the wrinkles of my knuckles, all this, I turn around, there's no fingernails. It's a palm, it looks different. There's fingerprints. It's completely different perspective of the exact same thing. And so the truth is, this is a hand. Body feels, that is true. Doesn't mean that the feelings are telling you the truth about a situation, but it's telling you the truth about who you are showing up as in that moment, or which part of you is showing up and telling you the truth about, hey, this is still hanging out here and I'd really like to be addressed. And that's the reason that those things come up, right? So the difference of the mind truth versus the body truth or the feeling truth is immense. And I think that that's an important segue for you to go into, because you said some important things about feelings earlier.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And it's so interesting, like, because I'm a Scorpio moon. I had a lot of feelings, so many feelings. And then I'm a Pisces. I have so much emotion. And as a child, I felt like, what is wrong with me? Why do I feel like so big? And everybody else is like living their little lives. They're perfectly fine, following the rules. And I'm like, that makes me feel, And with my emotions being so judged, it was really hard coming from that place of trying to always push it down, numb it in some way, to believing what I have come to understand and believe, which is that every single emotion is true. It is exactly true. It is a perfect mirror of whatever you are feeding it. And you can trust that. You can trust that your emotion is a perfect mirror for what it is you're thinking, what it is you believe, your perception, your mind can trust the feelings. It is a beautiful, like a reflection on the water, giving back the mind information. And in those information, it's going to tell you whether you are in line or you are not. And so many times with these negative feelings, we're judging the feelings when that was the gift. It is the gift from our heart to say, that's out of balance. That's not true. But the feeling was always right. It is mirroring this incredible love from the feminine saying, I will hold space to allow you to feel and mirror back to you what it is you are creating, what it is you are perceiving, so that you have something to navigate your life with. And when we believe that feelings are for us and it's all in love that it's been given to us, and we actually surrender to the feeling itself becomes something entirely different. No matter what it is, it transforms and it lessens the more that you will allow it to be uncovered until you get to the center. And in that center is the peace. And it is the part of you that actually knows and sees what happened and decided to give you a certain reaction. And that part is where the information can come through. After you feel the feeling, there is a surrender. There is something that is so that we could all actually utilize in a way that is profound. After you have that big cry, after you really express yourself, you find yourself almost on a high, like, whoa, what is this? And then you connect to your heart. Something can start streaming through if you use that time wisely, because that is where all the mom is like, you learned your lesson. Now let's talk. Talk about why you thought that. Did that feel good? It didn't. So why don't we think something different? Why don't we redirect ourselves in a different way? But we can keep feeling all the bad feelings and blaming the feelings and just kind of trying to avoid them. Maybe we feel them, but we never sit long enough to ask why and what and how.
Yeah, it's so true. And what each of you is sharing is such an important synthesis that it's like our mind is constantly playing offense and defense. It's interpreting external stimuli all day and trying to give a voice to internal feelings. And it's like, for me, which I've got plenty of Aries in my chart as well, but more than that, lots of masculine energy, rather than I know this, I know that, like you said, Emily, I saw that happen, so I know it. It's more like the story I'm telling myself about that is this, and the story I'm telling myself about that is that. And it's like those all have this place in me, the story I'm telling myself. But what's in here, that's actually me. But my mind is not trained to look there. My mind is trained to look there and there and there and there and there and there and there. Because for whatever reason, whatever I brought out from here wasn't received in a way that I expected or a way that I understood. So I just like closed it off, So this external, internal balance, I think, is what this syzygy is all about. It's about knowing yourself and then using that as a lens to understand the story of those about you. So going back to you mentioned your Aries, Emily. I think we were talking earlier that you and Alyssa were kind of asking this important question, and one of them was, what do you need to know? Do you remember? I'm trying to remember was it that you needed to know?
So I have a strong mind need, and it's an ego need. It's a protector that lives inside of me, and it's something that I've been working with and trying to work on as far as bringing it into integration in my system. There's this need to know things, it comes out as a form of control. I think a lot of people can relate to that, and it's subconscious, but I've become aware and conscious of it in recent months, especially more than I ever have. So I wasn't able to become aware of that until I decided or heard and was activated by others that it was okay to accept that that was true, and that there's nothing wrong with me for being that way, that it's a beautiful part of me that has been protecting me. So I think sometimes our ego won't let us understand something about ourselves because that means that I'm bad. But once someone really breaks through, and usually it takes somebody loving and compassionate towards you in a way that you haven't been, for them to say, hey, just so you know, it's okay that you've been that way. And it makes sense why you've been that way. It makes total sense. I know your story. If I had gone through all that, I would probably do the exact same thing. But how is that serving you, right? So then it became kind of a playground for me to try to understand, why do I need to know things? So my answer to the question of why or what do you need to know was, I need to know that I don't need to know, you know? And it feels like a paradox, because in reality, you can't even know that you don't need to know without knowing something, right? Like, so it's fun to play with, but in reality, that need to know is rooted in insecurity of what will happen, that certainty, which is one of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's right down at the bottom. It's like foundational safety, certainty. I need to know I'm safe before I can relax, that sort of thing. And trauma can do that. That's what happened for me, is trauma created this environment on the inside. And what trauma is not what happened to you. It's actually what happens inside of you. The result of that. It can be a traumatic event, but that's not the thing. It's, what does it mean to me? The meaning we make and what we hold on to from that is the trauma. And so the work always comes back to the inside. Yeah, someone else may have done something, or some massive event may have happened, but that's over now. It's in the past, but it's still living in me, which means this is mine to work with.
Right.
And, so the need to know for me has been a transmuting process. I'm alchemizing it into, how can I play with trusting? Because trusting is so scary. And if I were to trust and relax, what does that mean? I have to have something else instead. So there has to be some sort of hope or drive for me to let go of that, to go towards something. That's something I've learned about myself. I can't just, people kept telling me, therapists, everybody, healers, they'd be like, just let go, just surrender. And I'm like, how? I don't know how, because it's inside. It's not like it's in my hands, it's in my body. Like, I don't know how. And then I started to understand that I actually need something to move toward in order to move away from that. I think that is where the truth is, right? So I need to be able to move toward truth and away from the story, away from fear. And so it ties in with this Aries thing. Like, the feminine is really the side that for Aries is the revealing, right? The truth.
Right.
And so that piece is like accepting that maybe my story isn't true, and maybe there could be a prettier story that I prefer to believe, that I could play with what that feels like. And we did that in a session with you the other day, Alyssa. You were helping me with that. Of like, how about we imagine if that didn't happen? Imagine if this happened instead. Imagine if it felt like that. And you just you contained it, and you said, there's space here for you to actually just play with that without judging the thoughts that come up and say, well, okay, that's fine, but let's just pretend that it did. Let's see how that feels in your body. What does that feel like? What happens happening inside of you? Which was such a beautiful thing that I've thought about since our session. And anyone listening now or in the future, you should definitely work with Alyssa. It's a very beautiful work. It is fully embodied. It is all in, fully committed, like transcendent, and she is present AF. Yeah.
You're so right. It's time to do the work, and you're there for that. And it's like, how? It's so difficult to move from that stone that's been safe for so long, and it's so thick and so secure and so certain. It's super hard. So Alyssa, what is that we move toward? When we
Yes.
understand that something's trapping us in this need to know, it's been our relationship for 5+ years at this point. How do we teach that side of ourselves that it doesn't need to know? What is it that it's moving toward?
Yes. And I like have so many feelings just rising up in me. I'm like, different movies are like coming in, like everything you're saying, like it's so crucial and so important. I'm so glad we're touching on this to say, okay, I trust you, but there's nothing to trust. It's giving your power away. And that's not real love. That is not how the universe works. That is how hierarchy works. That's how like the wounded masculine works. That's what we know works, or the society and the environment. But that is not real love. That is not source. That is not the feminine that has the truth, because the truth that we go from here needing to know is, can I trust you that you know what I want, what I need, and what I want to explore, and that's more important to you than whatever it is you think you would need to control. And it is truly trust. And one of the things that came through was like, the little dragon movie. Remember how the thing broke apart and like there was one dragon. What was different about that dragon? It was because they trusted her. They trusted her to make everyone matter. They trusted her that she had love. And love is the key. And if we truly understand what unconditional love looks like, and that's what is holding us, if that is the core, then we can let go, because we know it's not about itself. Love says, I love you enough that I would suffer and allow you the free will to make all these choices, and I wouldn't leave you. I'd still be here allowing you to. And love has proven that to us. Source has allowed us to make every wrong choice against ourselves and against each other in order to have the space and time to figure it out and change our mind, that we can trust you, and that there is something greater than what we could come up with ourselves. There's a greater plan, that we have that plan when we listen to our heart and we are instructed by God, by source, whatever you want to call it, that there is a higher purpose, a higher calling, than it is all about love.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about control. We don't need a God that needs us to do these things. God is all powerful, but yet he needs us to do all these things. That doesn't make sense, does it?
No, you do, because otherwise he'll destroy you.
Right? Oh yeah, and we're going to hell because he needs us to do all these things.
He loves you. Don't forget how much he loves you.
It doesn't make sense. True love, true power. If there is a power that gave us this free will, that gave us this chance, this choice to experience this entire thing and make all these wrong choices against ourselves, against all the other parts that it loves, the only reason that would be is because it believes in us that we can do it, we can figure it out, and that it's willing to hold this space for us to do it. And that's what awakening is. We are moving into trust that the greater source, the God that is holding us, not the one that they've come up with that needs us to do all these things, loves us unconditionally enough for us to figure it out. And as we all awaken individually, but then start awakening together, we together are the ones that bring in new earth. We start to acclimate to a different kind of society. We start to have those conversations. We start to look and feel, what would it look like when we are in our true form, our authentic self? How do we actually work together without this hierarchy, without all this money? What does it look like? And how do we know that we can trust it? How do we truly step into Christ consciousness, leading us through our heart and allowing that to be the foundation? What that foundation is that we all agree on, that's the law, is love, is forgiveness. It's these things that are eternal, and we are the ones then to utilize that as that's the base. How do we work together? What does it look like in a family? What does it first look like in ourselves, and then in our family, in our communities?
Yeah. We got a couple comments that I'll throw up on the screen to help interpret this a little bit more, but I completely agree. And Emily, what you're saying resonates so deeply, because it really becomes how. I know what I want. I know how I've heard it feels, but I don't know how to do it. And I think learning for a few years with Alyssa, doing these quantum healing experiences, I had never given myself permission for this before, but I can love myself as my mother. I can love myself as my father. I can even love myself as my teenagers, which becomes really difficult because those are always interesting conversations. But giving ourselves the permission to do that allows us to humanize these parts of ourselves that got fractured along the way through these really difficult real life experiences. And unless we're willing to do that, which is super hard, these can take us to places that very painful things happen. But until we're willing to, love is blocked, and love is trying to find a way in, but we just have, it's quantum, I guess, to sum it up. And I think, so Brandon, great to have you on the show. And also Mary Martin, our good friend from over in Gilbert. And I can appreciate what Brandon had mentioned. It's not easy to throw the Instagram comments on the screen, but two very powerful words. I'd love to get your take on this, Alyssa, and then Emily as well. But in this healing journey, just this initiative, which I think we've all heard, know thyself. What does that bring up for you first, Alyssa?
That's been my email sign off for 20 years.
No way.
To know oneself is the beginning of all wisdom by Aristotle. And it is truly the spiral inward is the only certain thing. You know, we hear all these conversations about we're in a simulation, which means everyone is a projection of me and I am God. And I mean, there's some truths in it, right? Like depending on your interpretation of these things. But to truly know yourself is where the safety starts to come in, because if you're having to rely on knowing other people and guessing their intentions or knowing what they're going to do or what they are doing or what they, you know, all of those things, regardless, if it's external to you, knowing them is never going to provide safety, because you can never truly know someone else. Like no one else has our eyes, our mouth, our thoughts, our history, our experience, our feelings, our way of being, moving in the world. So there's no way for anyone to fully know us, right? So the only one you can ever truly know is yourself. And I think that we avoid contact with ourselves, like I was alluding to earlier, because the ego will tell us we're bad because of the bad feelings, and we label it bad, negative. We use those words when in reality, these things may not have been caused by us. Maybe they're through our lineage, maybe they're through an experience or whatever, but then they become our responsibility. We are not bad for having these experiences or these behaviors or whatever. Once we're aware of them, it's just now time to play with it and learn how to evolve. So knowing yourself is where it starts. Awareness is literally the first 90% of it, just becoming aware. It is the hardest thing because your ego gets in the way and is like, we can't look over, right? Don't look over
there. Look here.
At the man behind the curtain controlling everything, because really you're a fraud, right? Like that's what the ego's like, don't look here. And the problem is we judge it. We judge ourselves for our less than beautiful behaviors, thoughts, whatever. We're so unconscious to our unconsciousness, you know? And it's like, how can you actually become aware? Well, you have conversations like this. You're around more conscious people who are willing to be honest about their own shortfalls and just admitting the things that are coming up for them and how they're working with it. And it inspires you. That's why we need community, right? That's why we have these attachments, basically. But I believe that it's rooted in that. So knowing yourself is really about being willing to understand all the parts of yourself. And I think actually, I just want to put a shout out to IFS, Internal Family Systems.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing. And it's been a huge game changer for me. And just compassionate inquiry as well is like, Sat Daram, she does this and she works in this space a lot. And I just highly encourage you guys to look that work up, because it actually really helped me to be allowed to contact these parts of myself that I was avoiding.
Without being worried that you're schizophrenic, right?
Right.
I've this so many times. It is so important.
It's so important. And honestly, you can't actually acknowledge these things if it means to you that you're no longer a good person. So understanding that you're still a good person, even though these things exist, both can be true. This exists and I'm a good person. Right. I think this way and I'm still a good person. Right. You to now go, oh, I can actually change it if I can acknowledge it. So that's the hard part, is being willing to and able to acknowledge the things about yourself and take radical responsibility for how you move forward after that.
Yeah. And it's almost like the very first thing, the real tool that you first need to get in order to go inward is to transform the belief or the thought that we're not acceptable as we are, or we're not good enough as we are. Like if you can get to that, to believe that whatever it is, whatever you've done, even if you're, I don't want to throw out big words, but like people that you can imagine the worst in the world, that there is a God, there is a source that sees them with compassion, that there is a viewpoint that says that's so sad that those choices were made because not only did they harm themselves, but they harmed all these other people. And it's actually an incredible witness to everybody around us, what we are capable of as human beings and what everybody else did when somebody is doing this. Did you follow suit? Humanity has shown, like, somebody says, oh, this is right and this is the right way to do it, and let's just start killing everybody because they're not as good as us. We have that capacity. And here we say that that person can't be loved. But when we believe that even they are loved and they are even acceptable, even though they're going to have a lot of karma and things that they need to work through, then it's okay that source, if you like tether to source and love, no matter what this is, no matter how scary it is, if I hold the heart of love and source, I don't have to see it with this negative view. So finding even somebody that can love that way to help you through that is really helpful. Or if you can just, like, it is hard to sometimes go into places that have a lot of judgment and hold love. It is a lot harder to do it for yourself. That's why it's helpful if you have somebody that can do that for you. But if not, channeling that love, that is the tool. If you have love and you can drop the judgment of something's wrong with you, you're good or bad. No, you're just you and you're loved no matter what you do. That's the baseline. It's okay.
That's so hard, especially to receive that is so hard, especially if you're in a shame spiral.
Right.
And I agree 100% with you because I'm an essentialist, but I will speak to the existentialists out there who are probably like, yeah, but what if you don't believe in source? And the only thing I know is that I exist. You can literally still just lean into IFS work and just the polarity that you can sense inside of yourself of the masculine and feminine, and just it doesn't have to go any further than that, and to allow just your capital S self, your big self, your wise adult who lives inside you to be the one who loves you. Mm-hmm. Because there are multiple facets to each of us, whether you believe in source or not. And you know what I mean? I do, but if you don't, this work is still for you, and you are equally redeemable through that lens and perspective. So I think that's an important thing just to throw on the end of that, because I totally agree with you, but I hear the existential.
Good.
What about me? I don't believe that. Well, it's allowed for you to also just have a higher, more elevated perspective of understanding what happened wasn't your fault. What happened in you wasn't your fault. It's allowed for you to become aware and stop judging yourself so that you can actually start transmuting things and just start moving forward. Mm-hmm. Leave it behind, right? Because it's all just about density. Feelings that are heavy live in our body. Why do we feel tight in our neck when we're stressed out? Because there's literally energy that you can feel, right? We know energy is real. Science says so. So even if you're a person who's like, I believe in science, great. We literally can measure that. So we can see it in the brain and how things light up when we have certain thoughts, and how energy collects in the body and in the field, and it's measurable through vibrational frequency. And you can feel it in your own somatic response as well, tightening of the chest, sick to the stomach, not in your gut, drop. These are all dense things that you can sense. They're not visible.
One thing that we can all agree on is we all want to feel good.
Yeah, 100%.
So is going to make us feel the best? What kind of energy do you feel the best with? We can all agree that feeling so much love for yourself is an incredibly high vibration. So if it is just this one life, or it is all you and it's only going to be you, great. How do you want to feel? What do you want to transform? And how can you learn that there is something that comes back when you believe you're not good enough or someone else isn't good enough? Somehow it keeps mirroring back to you, and that doesn't feel good either. So I agree. We don't have to believe in anything other than I want to feel good. And what's the easiest way to do that? And all these things link up. That's what's so cool.
Right. As we do it. And I picked up on something you mentioned earlier as well, Emily, combined with what you're sharing now, which is like, oh yeah, I don't know, kind of like looking for an out, is like at some point, it can be a person, it can be an experience, it can be something you do within yourself. Permission is granted. And as soon as permission is granted, now the gate opens to all these and it just keeps getting more and more expensive. And it's like, oh, will this ever end? I kind of need a break. But there's so much to heal. But in order for that permission to be granted, we have to kind of come to terms with that ourselves. And I can really resonate with what Angie is sharing here, which what comes up for her is like, when I start down this path, the imposter syndrome kicks in, which is like, maybe it's, I don't have it as bad as this person, so who am I to heal? Why should I deserve to have this and that when that person doesn't? Or it can manifest in a lot of different ways. But maybe start with your input on this one, Alyssa. What can you do when you start down this journey that's supposed to be your way of healing, but it feels like who am I to even do this? Why should I do this when someone else, there's so many people suffering way worse than I am?
Yes. And I think we all know this feeling. Like when you start to know the right thing, like I know I should be, and I can start acting like I'm feeling these things, and then I know that I should. There's a lot that you're trying to like step into before you actually feel it. And I think that's where it kind of resonates, like, wait a second, I'm saying these things and I'm acting this way, and I'm really trying to do these really awakened things. I'm talking this way, but part of me doesn't believe it. So it's not that you're the imposter, it's that this is the imposter, the part that doesn't believe it. And that's where you can be like, okay, so let me work on that part of me, because there's a part of me that knows this is true. And that's why you're trying to act it. I know I should feel grateful. I know I should. And so I'm going to try really hard. I'm so grateful, but you don't feel it. You feel like an imposter, because the imposter is here. It is saying, I'm not good enough. And it's a feeling that's unprocessed, that needs to be processed so that you can fully embody in the feeling of gratitude versus trying to be gratitude, trying to act gratitude, and all the other emotions. But does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the syzygy. It feels like the imposter in you will always be there. That's really the mind, but the truth is always within you, and that's the remembrance. So does that bring up anything for you, Emily, and just being the one to remind and ask and just not get weary of that conversation?
You guys are nailing it. I'm having like total connection to what you're saying. The syzygy piece that you just brought into layers on so nicely. Like the mind is the one that is the imposter's voice, and the true self, like the truth, is the feeling. We're right back where we started earlier on this. The truth is the feeling, and we are all so terrified to feel the big feelings. Obviously, we've been programmed against feeling our feelings. It's very rare for people to have a very secure attachment style. It's so rare, and because our parents couldn't do better, they weren't given those tools, and they had way less available to them than we do right now. Right? We have the internet. I mean, our parents didn't have that. Like that alone puts us like way down the path of possibility, right? For what we can do better at the same ages.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is in the body, and there's a body called The Body Keeps a Score is a book that's about this, and it also goes into like it weaves in really good with IFS work, and just being willing to go into feelings that are in your body is probably one of the scariest experiences. It's one of the scariest I've had, when it's a big feeling and I don't know how big, and it feels like one of those like you've thrown one of those, a Mento in a freaking Coke bottle, and you're like, oh gosh, if you open it, it's gonna like bubble all over. And you're like, I don't even know what to do. It's like this is what this Tantra teacher this weekend, I did this workshop with my partner, and he was like, I asked this question specifically. I was like, when you have big feelings that are wanting to come up and you're too scared to go into it because you're like, I don't know what will happen. I don't know how big, how long it will be. Or I don't know that my partner, which it's not necessarily their responsibility, but the point is like, I don't know if somebody else can like contain this, because I don't think I can contain it. Right. So what do you do in a situation like that? And he's like, treat it like that Coke bottle, and just a little at a time. You don't have to open it and just take it all at once. You can do it that way. It'll be messy.
Get that pillow. It's a lot easier once you get the initial burst out.
Yeah.
Now let's sit with this all.
But it's like it's allowed to just do it your way that feels safe for you. Yes. Contain it. Give yourself permission to say, I have the power to decide how and when I work with these feelings. I don't have to be overwhelmed by it. And if you can actually just borrow my belief as I say this, as someone who's actually like been pushing myself to do this work, it actually works way faster and better than you think. It's the fear that you have to be brave. You have to be brave, and you have to just try. Start small, make sure that you feel contained, and then go into it. And the way you do that is through the body. And when it comes up, where are you noticing it? I feel like I'm being choked. I feel it in my chest. I feel nauseous. I feel a knot underneath my heart. You know, whatever you're sensing, I'm hot, I'm sweating, I feel burny, I feel pressure in my head, pain in my neck, whatever it is, it's coming up. And if you don't even know how to access your feelings, access your body. Because what will come up for you when you ask a question, you just get quiet and listen to it. It has so much wisdom. And then you can just be gentle with it. And you can literally say out loud to yourself or internally, I'm just gonna play with this, and I want to touch you. We don't need to become enmeshed, me and my feelings. I just want to touch you and give you permission to exist. Let's just start there, you know, and then allow your truth to start bubbling up, and know that at any time you can use your skill of disassociation. You can use your skill of suppression. You always have that old guy like in your quiver, you know, that arrow that you can pull out at any time. Not saying that's healthy, but you know, you can avoid feelings if you need to. But maybe just play with the courage to not do that, and start small and set that intention that you are going to be safe. And then once you do it, what's wild about it is like, you realize, oh, it wasn't actually that bad, and it moved really fast. It moved so much faster than I thought it was gonna, and it was way less scary, and it felt way better than I thought. I thought it was gonna be really painful, and I'd have to go into the story. Don't go into the story. Just be with the feeling. And when your brain starts to go into why you feel that way and where it came from, and the first time you remember, and it was this, and it's like, no, stop, bring it back, and just be with it. Stay with it. Stay with it. Stay with it. That's how you actually move it. And then you just feel so light. Like you said, almost like you're high afterwards. You're like, oh my gosh, I feel elated, because it's like, you didn't even know you had that. Take it off, you know?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And the curiosity in general about yourself, about your relationships, about your feelings. If we can just maintain the curiosity, everything becomes a whole lot more accessible. But we were talking about this a little bit earlier too. Alyssa, where is it that we stop? Like, we've got 2, 3, and 4-year-olds in the house. Like, why? Like, they're just curious. Why did we stop asking why? Where did that whole thing come from? Where is our curiosity gone as we continue to grow up?
I know that there's stages, but I also believe that it's like the amount that we as parents or other people, like, you know, we kind of shut it down. Like, that's annoying. Like, stop asking why. Or we kind of like give them answers just to shut them up instead of like really allowing them. And you can turn it back on them. Why do you think? Mm-hmm. Why do you think that? Like, if that's the best way to like get them to be internal and start talking. But if we make them feel any kind of judgment around their whys, it's like, oh, they're chipping away a little bit of their curiosity. Right. Is the most incredible thing. And the other thing is, going into school, one of the biggest things that cuts down that curiosity is the judging as far as grades go. You're going to be curious, learn how to do this. Now I'm going to tell you if you're good enough. Mm-hmm. You learned, but you weren't a good enough learner. You weren't into this. And it's like, oh, shiz. Like, I don't want to be curious. I just need to know. How do I know? But the curiosity is literally the genius that explores and learns more things and allows you to naturally become more than you are. Yeah. That's top down to become little workers, to just do what we say, memorize it and do it. Memorize it and do it. Don't explore. Don't get curious. Just learn what I tell you and nothing more. Unless it's a question that I have the answer to, and I'm going to tell you the answer. Like, openness of, it's fun to learn. It's fun to explore. It gets chopped to little pieces. As soon as like I say judging, but as soon as the grading becomes a thing. Mm-hmm. And there's been so many studies on this. Like, their kids are all genius until this age. Why does it stop right around school age? There's a very good reason.
Yeah, there are systems that need to change. And it's very similar to, like, Emily was teaching us a lot about the internal dialogue that you're learning, to stay curious and have that dialogue within yourself. If you're doing it here, it's going to be very hard for somebody to convince you not to do it outside of yourself, because you're learning what works, right?
Yes, absolutely. And there's so much power. And earlier, Alyssa, you had said something about like giving your power away. And I was thinking, man, that's been like my biggest lesson recently that I finally have integrated, and understanding how often I was giving my power away to others because I was outsourcing my safety, right? So it ties back into that of, if I believe someone else is responsible for something I should be doing for myself, that number one is entitlement. If, like, how dare I ask someone else to do something for me that I'm not doing for me, right? And if I don't know how, that's where you ask for help, right? And that's a willingness to do that means a dissolution of ego. If you're not willing to ask for help, then that's something for you to look at, because there's something blocking you, making you think you already know what to do. Listen, if you knew better, you'd be doing better. If you know better, but you're not doing better, there's something you don't know. So,
and where do you think that came from? If we look at it bigger, like if that's what you're doing, it's likely that your own parents felt like they needed to control. They needed to overdo. And then it's like, oh, I can't do this for myself. Love means that you do it for me. I'm not capable. You have to do it. You create a handicap in your own children by overdoing versus allowing them to grow, allowing them to try, allowing them to fail, and being that safeguard that says, that's okay, we try again. We don't have that shame and judgment. So like any part of us that it feels like, oh, I'm the one that should be doing that. It's just a deprogramming of what you were taught. There is no judgment about it. It's just like, oh, okay. So like I took this on for a reason, and we can discover what those reasons are. There really is no like blame to even be had, because you could just keep passing it around.
Yeah.
But instead it can just be an experience that you get to ascend from, you get to learn from, you get to overcome. It's an obstacle that you wanted to overcome and you did it. That's all it has to be.
And you chose it, right? You chose this. Well, this is my belief, I should say. You chose this life. You chose to incarnate into the family, the time, the country, the body you did, the gender you did, like whatever it is, you chose this. So if you can acknowledge that, or if you don't believe that, say, regardless, I'm here now. So I got to work with what I got. Either way, you're still here, and it is your responsibility. Nobody can take care of your body like you can take care of your body. Nobody can take care of your heart or your mind the way you can. No one knows you the way you do.
Right.
So keep your power. Don't give it to other people expecting them to do something for you you should be doing for you. And the second you start blaming, that is literally you showing yourself that you're giving your power to someone else. If they are able to do that for you and you're making me feel whatever, no, you can say, ooh, instead, perspective shift is, thank you for helping me to see that this still lives here. And this is coming up for me. Regardless of how unconscious you're being, I'm so grateful that you're mirroring to me that this is inside of me, because I feel because of what's happening here on the outside, I feel on the inside, which means it's ready to be released. The only time these things come up is because they're ready to move. If you don't believe that, that's a foundational step that you need to take, is understanding that anytime this comes up, it's a gift. Anytime feeling comes up, a craving, a desire, anything that you're like, this is bad, it's a gift.
Right.
It is an opportunity. It is a portal. It is a trailhead. It's an opportunity, man. Just like go into it.
Yeah. And it's also an opportunity to receive.
Oh yeah.
So it is a very foundational, and this is another really important thing, like the most beautiful thing of existence, of being human, of source and mind, and this whole creation is our capacity to ask for help and receive. So no, you're not supposed to do it all on your own. No, the power isn't you doing it yourself. And we can get really caught up in that. Oh, it's my power. I have to do it all myself. I can't ask for help. I gotta do it. No, your responsibility is to care for yourself, your body, your mind, your spirit. And if you can care for it, that means asking for help and believing you deserve the help. But you can't make other people. You just can believe that asking for help eventually will get it. It's your responsibility to get the help however you get it, and that you deserve it either way. Where is it that you could give it to yourself? That's a great question. And where is it that you need help? And believing you deserve that help. And that if some person can't give it to you, it doesn't mean that you can't ask again and ask someone else and find a new way. But that you don't give up on yourself, because you deserve it either way. That kind of is what finally clicked for me. I don't know how that feels for you, Emily.
Oh, totally. I think that it's very hard to ask for help for a lot of us. And we're conditioned to feel that way. We were talking earlier about the Ferber method. And when we're babies, it's like you're crying for help and you're left alone. It is from infancy that we are trained to believe that what I need is not important.
Right.
Is more important.
And you're all on your own.
You're on your own, buddy. So, and as soon as you can take care of yourself, you do it, right? Or asking for help is pointless, right? That kind of like withery martyrdom can be another expression of that experience. And where you're like, well, what's the point? Like, nobody can help me, yeah, you go into that sort of energy. And I think that if we can actually just tune into the fact that asking for help doesn't make me weak, it means I'm resourceful.
Right.
It also means that I am humble, right? Because that's a beautiful trait, to be humble and to have a beginner's mind and to not believe you know everything. Because like, who wants to be around people who know everything, right? So if you are trying to believe that it's all on you and it's on your shoulders and you'll figure it out and whatever, a perspective shift on that could be to go, oh, maybe I'm not being very humble. Maybe I'm kind of in my ego on that. And in reality, we literally have community and we are born into families for a reason. Like, we are built to depend on each other,
Yeah, that's so true. And I feel like I somehow kind of skipped over this, but I'm just realizing like these syzygies are all based on Greek thought and Greek words. And the single teacher who's recorded in Greek the most is Jesus. And Jesus, I've heard, said, ask, seek, and knock more than he said any other thing. Ask and you shall receive. Ask and you shall receive. I think it was like 147 times or something in just like 50 pages. So that simple thing, ask and you shall receive, seems like the foundation that for a lot of us, like you mentioned the Ferber thing, what does that do for like an infant, for example, Alyssa, if they're asking and they're not receiving? What does that do internally to your spirit and your being?
Right. And that's where the initial, like, we had to come into this life long enough for us to get to the point where we can uncover that, because there's experiences, right? But yeah, if you're going to be as a child, I mean, we can all imagine, how would you feel as a child in this crazy world that you have no power, you can't walk it, you can't even communicate well, depending on what age you do it. But then you are scared to death, you need somebody. You are scared, your heart is racing, maybe you had a terrible dream, you don't know what's happening, and you are scared in this new universe, and nobody comes. And you try for minutes turn to hours turn to all night long. Like, and I hear people like, it was all night long. Like, can you imagine being a little innocent? And this is what we're told we're supposed to do. And we're all, as parents, to be a good parent, to teach them well, to make them, is to do this. So nobody's doing this to like hurt their child. And I'm not having any judgment, but yes, it is. And there's been studies done now that finally realize that there is deep traumas associated. But I kind of wanted to pull back a little bit and say, when we think about like parent to child relationship, and you think about a child asking for help, and you love this child, and you're not in your head at all, you just love them. The most loving thing that we could do, if the child wants help, but they have some capacity to do it on their own, is to say, let me help you. And we teach them, we allow them to do all that they can do, but that we show up for them because they deserve the support to do it. So asking for help, sometimes all you need when you're asking for help is someone to say, I believe in you. How can I support you? But what can you do? And that gives us just enough. And that part of us that says, I'm asking for help, is because part of us just needs to know we are loved, that we matter, and that somebody believes in us. And we can give it to ourselves. But how much more incredible is it for us to start living that Christ consciousness, where we show up and we believe that someone else can do it and we help them do it, or we offer them the tools, teach a man to fish and he's fed for his whole life. If you offer him a fish, then they only get one meal. I know I'm butchering that, but it's true. Like, we deserve, if we feel like we want help, we deserve help. And part of that means asking for it. And part of that means, even if nobody else shows up, I'm going to do it anyways. Mm-hmm. But that we deserve all of that. And that any kind of judgment you have about, I just have to do it myself, is probably bystepping a beautiful gift that you can get just by asking, because it's vulnerable. And by asking, you're believing that you deserve it. Even if that means you show up for yourself, you at least asked. And you're at least looping yourself into what is Christ consciousness, because you deserve to ask. And even if they said no, you still deserved it. They would have showed up. Maybe they couldn't. But if you tried, then you showed yourself you were worthy of at least trying. And then if you offer it to yourself, you kind of did the whole thing on your own. Had you never asked, you might have never gotten there, and you would have just put it to the side because it was too much. Being vulnerable always helps, even if it's met with something somebody else is not receiving. At least that's my opinion.
Alyssa, you said something to me in our session on Thursday about this that was so helpful to me, because we were talking about this exact thing. And you were like, just remember that there are people that really love to help. They love to help, and they love you and they want to help you. And when you don't ask, you're now taking the opportunity from them to give to you, because it literally lights them up. It fills them up. It's not taking from them, you know? And if we're feeling like, well, it'll be taking from them, like, I don't want to burden them. Where am I maybe feeling burdened by overgiving?
Right.
That's what it just turn it around. Where does it come right back to you? Where's my truth in this? Like,
right.
Feminine being overtaxed because I'm just saying yes, 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 because I'm expected to be the nurturer.
Right.
And like in this syzygy, like that's part of it, right? Like what truth comes up when you hear yourself, asking that same question, like, who could I ask for help? Well, I don't want to burden them. They're busy. They're this, they're that. Well, where are you maybe saying yes? And that's the reason that you have a negative feeling about someone helping you, because maybe you're helping them, and you should leave some space for people to help themselves. Maybe you're overdoing it, or maybe you have a wound where you won't allow anyone to help you because you were taught, like we said, when you're little, that's wrong. Like you shouldn't want, don't ask for anything.
Right.
So either way, there's the gift, right? Is how to look in our shadow and go, okay, if I'm not willing to ask for help, what does this mean? And then curious, ask the wise.
Yes. And that's why, from my perspective, being real and being vulnerable, even if that means making a mistake or being selfish or whatever that is always a good step forward. Because by doing that, at least you're going in the direction to uncover the truth. You're not trying to hide it. You're not trying to suppress it. You're not trying to overthink it and do it differently. You are getting to know yourself in a natural way, the way that we do as children, learn and grow naturally until we're shamed and we have to do something else. The best way to learn is to be true. Even if that means screaming and becoming angry and then having to apologize. I'm so sorry. That was really, you at least got to know yourself. Something got out, and then you had the opportunity to say sorry. And one of the most incredible things I've learned as being a mother is that you can teach your children so much more by making mistakes and owning them than you ever could by doing it all right.
And as a father.
As a parent, sorry.
What you're saying is so spot on. And it's, you said earlier, love is such a high frequency vibration, and it is. It's one of the highest. But you know what? The highest actual frequency is authenticity. So they did this study. They had this like cage thing, and I can't remember what the machine is called that they test frequency with, but they basically were like measuring people's like vibrational frequency that was coming off of them. And they would have them talk about, feel, remember painful things, happy things, blah, 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 blah. And they found that, oh yeah, love was a high frequency, but then also anger would spike, but not always. And then sometimes sadness would spike really high, but not always. And so there was nothing consistent except for that there was like this one frequency that would get hit repeatedly, and they ended up whittling it down and finding out that the highest frequency vibration, regardless of the feeling, was authenticity. So it's like you're saying your truth, that's authentic. Like truth, authenticity, these are the same thing. Like, what is your truth? What are the feelings? Those are what's true. That is the highest frequency. So stop judging your anger, your sadness, all this stuff, and being like, I'm so angry. This isn't okay. Actually, it's totally okay. That's valid. Let's get into it. Let's be curious about that. If you're that mad, there's something to it. Stop suppressing and rejecting and exiling. Instead, say, you're welcome you have a seat at this table. You're not allowed to break the table. You're not allowed to hurt other people, but you are absolutely allowed to express. Be real, be authentic, because that's going to bring you the best results, because that frequency is what pulls you right through the experience.
Totally agree. And I love the way that you're expressing that too. And I feel like, especially for women, maybe it's for everybody, but it gets more triggered, and it's more like this archetype for women, like the angry woman or rage. Like when we get into rage, where it feels like I could literally strangle you, like that feeling is a very real thing. And it is the suppression of the anger that is then exiled. Right. And it becomes like an atomic bomb. And it's like, I have gotten past that point, and the only way to do this feels like to to physically change whatever is happening, because I can't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. And if we actually believe that to feel your rage without doing something destructive, but to feel it, to scream into a pillow, to do all that is of the highest amount to get your energy back. actually, because that's where it's the most stored. And that's where you learn the most about yourself, because that's the most vulnerable places that feel angry, because somebody did something, even if it's your own thoughts, something happened that went past a boundary that was okay. And that's a beautiful power. When it's in line, that's a mama power. I will move that car off my child. This will not happen. It is love in action, and it is your love to say no. But that has been demonized in order to make a meek little woman that says, yes, everything you want.
Right. And guess what happens in that situation? Instead of externalizing rage, where it's more accepted for men to do that, if a woman does that, it's like, oh, she crazy. But
yeah, exactly.
So what we do is we take that same amount of energy and we internalize it. We turn it on ourselves. I am like so guilty of this. And it literally has made my body sick and diseased, injured, and all kinds of things in the past. And I've understood now that that is actually what was happening. Internalized rage because it wasn't safe to express outward because I was too much, right?
I feel like
not allowed.
Yeah. You two seem to have really synergized this duality of Aries into this concept of authenticity. And I just like to call that out, that there's probably a reason that's this foundational principle that comes up first, is like have the internal conversation to be the questioner and the source in yourself. Like that authenticity really can be the foundation for everything else, including, and interestingly, these are like some of the pinnacle syzygistic emanations, is like faith, hope, and charity. They were considered like the three. We'll get into that like later in these conversations, but it makes so much sense that without authenticity, without truth, vulnerability of really seeing yourself in the mirror and embodying that duality, they're just not going to be reachable because you haven't the foundation of truth within yourself. A few things to throw up on the screen. We're at time, but we really appreciate each of you chiming in. So a couple things. First of all, Alyssa and Emily, you truly do embody this healing that so many of us need. Obviously, you're doing the work within yourselves, but I can't say enough about my wife and how much she really was like I call her the fifth element. Love, obviously, which is a reference to our favorite movie, which some of you have probably seen. And Angie agrees. And I think it's worthy of calling out to each of you. The shift you're making in the universe by being there for people who need your help is beyond commendable, and it's so powerful. And I think it's the greatest thing as mothers and practitioners and everything you do. But Angie, help arrives in many forms, just like these beautiful conversations. So it's an honor to be here with both of you. A couple other things, just so we don't miss them. I know we know this handle. It's, I believe, somebody you know, Alyssa, Ashley, maybe.
This is Ashley Lloyd.
Yes, Ashley Lloyd, I remember too. So all those things you were discussing, that they really do, like, we're so malleable as children, they really are just going to become who we are as adults. And that's where the work becomes so deep and so detailed, and going back to each of those experiences, which could be when you're 1, 2, 3, 4 years old, and just continuing to go back to find more. So would love to talk more about that as the conversations continue. And then Eve, going into the parenting side of things, trying to teach children how to do everything perfect is going to make them not to enjoy getting it wrong. The magic, though, is in that chaos, which is so true, right? That's like every best video ever posted is like enjoying the chaos. And then finally, Angie wishes she knew that. But hey, we know it now, and now is the time to make the shift. So we'd love to just give a moment for either of you to chime in on anything that was shared before we conclude.
Yes, and I want to throw that right back to you. Thank you so much for hosting this and being such an incredible, like, dependable grounding force in all these conversations. And I'm so glad Emily came on tonight. Like, ever since she came into our life, she's like bursting with fire. She just has so much to offer, and we're so grateful for that relationship. And we know it's just at the beginning. But I was just going to say, I know we didn't get a touch on it, but I do think it's worth mentioning. When we were looking into this mind and truth and this heart and mind and the original separation, where we went into this experience at first as one whole consciousness, all the power, all the things, but there was no forgetting. There was no separateness. It was all us, all the dream space of everything is me. And I have all the power in all of this to be like, we want to experience something more. What would that look like? And boom, something new was born. This child, this masculine, this companion of self that forgot, that is us, our masculine mind, and our heart, our mother, the original, that is allowing this whole thing to transpire in order to have this incredible hierogamic unit inside of us. But the very first thing that we'll just say we, because we are this consciousness, says when we wake up to what is this, is instead of asking our hearts, instead of asking mother, who am I? What does this mean? And we might for at some point, but at some point we go internal. We are yelling into our own psyche, listening back to ourself and casting it on each other. Is it because of this? Am I not lovable? Do you not? We come up with these fears. And the moment we start having the fear is the moment we try to escape. And that's when we put on the mask. That's when ego starts to create a false reality, and it starts to act a certain way that is different from authenticity. And the reason why authenticity is the highest vibration is because that is where you are most loved. That is where you finally have love. Love is authenticity, being seen as you are and allowing all that love to finally come into your entire body, your entire being. All of this is love. Right. And we can only offer love as much as we believe we are too. But I would like to see the most authentic person fully embodied, like what you see as Christ consciousness embodied on this planet. When he says love, how much would that spike? I think there's even more than whoever was being tested. I believe love is the source. Love is the frequency, and authenticity is our mind finally receiving it and offering itself to love, to be seen. And that's what 6 is all about. And we'll go into that. But the mask is the part where we finally say, I'm not good enough, so I'll be something more. And I want you to only see this part, and I'm going to try to be all these parts. And you divide yourself, you try to be more, and then there becomes this imbalance. Everyone else is less than, or I'm less than, versus the authentic self that says, I just am. That's all.
Beautiful. And you got one more shout out, Emily, one of our original OG guests, who's always high contributor. Angie says specifically, thank you so much for sharing. Any closing feelings or thoughts you'd like to add, Emily?
It was for Angie, actually. I wrote her name down. Her previous comment about I wish I knew better when my kids were little. My heart I felt her so hard on that. I think we've all had that experience of like, once we know something and we go, and we look back at maybe something we didn't do out of our highest self, whatever, just a way of being and a consciousness that we were carrying. Like that, I wish is automatically like you judging yourself because you are such a good mom and you do love so well. And you're like, so it's like, just trust that they chose you as their mother. They knew exactly what they were getting into. And the best apology for anything you feel bad about is changed behavior. The better you do now in the present, it can absolutely alchemize into the past. Like time is not actually, it's not real. So we can totally just like reach into the past, reach into the future, reach into our lineage. We can reach into other lives. We can pull these energies together and burst it out. The second you have a new awareness and you do your own healing, it literally helps to alchemize and set the path for your children. And probably the most healing thing that we can do with our kids, and this was the thought that sparked for me because I've had a lot of these real conversations with my kids, things that I wish I had done better, so I just so relate, is to just have an authentic conversation about, like, obviously age appropriate, but about who you were and who you are now, what you're learning, and ho'oponopono. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. You know? And I forgive you. So it's like with your kids, it's less of I forgive you. And it's more of just like, I'm sorry, please forgive me, you know? Mm-hmm. But that is probably the most healing thing you can do for yourself and for your kids, to release the judgment over anything you did in unconsciousness and just do better, you know? Just take responsibility now, in the now, and continually forgive yourself for not knowing or for not being perfect. All these things that we just spent time talking about, that's deconditioning, and it is work. It is a daily practice, and it's something we will do until we die. There will be no finish line while we're still alive, in my opinion.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And it's feels so healing to bring this conversation into the spotlight in this way that is accessible to all of us, because we all have a mind, we all have a heart. And truly, I think the message that Aries brought tonight is that's all you need to balance this part of yourself and become this limitless power source to alchemize and change your destiny. So it's been a pleasure to learn about that with each of you. Authenticity has a whole new meaning to me. It's always been powerful, but it's come online in such a authentic and powerful way that I am very excited to integrate this and continue the conversations as we go into the following weeks and keep these combinations moving within us and allow that energy to continue alchemizing in whatever way it needs to for all time. Like you said, Emily, it's not real. We can go anywhere we want. We are the travelers. So thank both of you so much for all your insights, all your healing, all your words. Can't wait for the next conversation. Yes, we hope you'll join us again. And we hope everyone has a great night.
Bye, you guys. Thank you so much.
I love you.